Starting with this one, and I'm supposed to be teaching chapter 8, which does anyone know what chapter 8 is for? In that activity 10? 8, what does an 8 look like?
A bug.
A bug, entomology, right? So I'm not going to go over that one because chapter 8 was based off of this overall, right? Because the other was a manual. We're in the overall a manual, so you're gonna get the same data and information. And I'm not gonna speak twice because my mouth was really dry yesterday after speaking quite a bit. Before I start, that handout that I gave to everyone. Thoughts?
Great job.
Basically everything that's on the test, right? After done 17 times, I remember what's on that test. All right, cool. Now I'm at P5052, TAC 26. I'm going to be looking back a lot because my PRK isn't working as great as it used to anymore. All right, chapter 1 of the program. Commanding officer of a Navy vessel must ensure the senior enlisted medical department, SMDR representative, hospital corpsmen responsible for pest control are certified in pestboard and shipboard pest management. Who can apply pesticides on the ship? Does anybody know? PMTs only. IDCs can't do it, nobody else. Entomologists and preventive medicine technicians are the only ones that can do that. You can't just go on there. You can't call Orkin and be like, hey, come over here. The only people that can apply pesticides on a U.S. Navy vessel are PMTs and entomologists. You may see something like that on there. CWR assures that ongoing shipboard pest control is maintained. So rodent control, obviously using rat guards. We're going to get into that a little bit later. Fumigation and commercial contracts, which we don't do. Procurement of pesticide dispersal equipment and PPE, so actual respirators. I was going to bring mine in, but I was rushing back because apparently we don't have signal. Nobody has signal, I guess. Protection of MREs, inspection, sanitation, which is the cornerstone of preventing pests. Pesticide safety, so the actual maintenance of them and making sure that they're being stored in a proper manner. MSDSs are now SDSs. Record keeping and reporting, there's a specific form that we're going to go over later. It's a DD form on where we applied, how much we applied, your license and everything, and just moving forward that way. Regulations and program guidance. Navy entomology assigned to NECE, which is actually in Jacksonville, Florida. Really cool place if you've ever been. They have like 2 different satellite sites where they just breed mosquitoes. Like it's pretty gnarly in there. The Navy Entomology Center of Excellence, I would write that one down because that is that's where we actually maintain, test all of our equipment lists, all of the pesticides, and the majority of entomologists are there. They're all like PhDs and they test all the stuff that we have for the ongoing fight that we have going on. So previously, with everything else, right, we used to reach out to the NEPMUs. For pests, you can reach out to the Navy Entomology Center of Excellence or NECE directly. There's somebody I watch all the time, Miss Remmers. I talk to her at least once a month. She's great. She's an Air Force colonel, and she's the contractor that works for them. They respond to you. They will give you all the information you need. They will give you tech guides. They will give you manuals. They'll even send you like insect repellent if you need it. Like they're really, really good about it. They do education and training. I actually just recertified for my Cat A for the 3rd time. It's every 5 years, or every 3 years, 5 years. So it's pretty cool stuff. If you guys are ever interested, NEPMU does provide shipboard pest management, and you don't have to be a PMT to go to it. So they get into it, and you can actually see in person what these things that we're going to talk about look like. And you'd be surprised how freaking tiny they are. It's pretty insane. Education and training requirements. The shipboard pest control course, which is the one that I just did, that's required for any, there's 2 different courses. Shipboard pest management, which is IDCs do it, CSs, what are they now, RSs?
Baby
LSs?
docs.
Yeah, baby docs can go to it as well, and of course PMTs, it's a requirement for us. Certification training consists of one day of classroom and then 1 day of actually training aboard a vessel. They don't really do that anymore. We all do it notionally now, unfortunately. I wouldn't really write much of this down right there. What I would write down is the second portion, which is DoD Pesticide Applicator Category 8. Category 8 certification. That is public health certification to apply pesticides. This little guy right there. Little license. That's what you have to have in order to do that. However, the Department of Defense authorizes only preventive medicine technicians and the sister branch equivalents to apply those, entomologists as well. That's the only thing you really have to know about that. I would just remember category 8. Shipboard pests. This is going to be the big one. A lot of note take on this one. Feel free to take pictures if you'd like, but I put a lot of that stuff on that handout that I gave you. So if you don't want to double do it, no harm, no foul, right? We're going to go over biology, surveillance, control surrounding of pests that are commonly found aboard ships, specifically in food service areas, so sculleries, mess decks, ship stores, soda storage areas, because leakage can happen. So if there's any kind of leakage and you have sticky cans, that's just going to attract pests. Because what did I say the cornerstone for preventing pests was? Sanitation. Right? Heads and showers, because people are gross, especially if you've been embarked with Marines. They like to wipe their butts with their underwear and put it down the drain. That is great. All right, German cockroach. The most commonly encountered pest aboard a Navy ship. I would write that down. Overall, the most common pest on a ship. Ideal habitat is going to be abundant standing water, food, and warmth. These are harborage. They have this thing where they actually like to be really, really close together. They like to be in confined spaces. That's why they kind of scurry away whenever they're frightened. If you've ever been, I wasn't able to put the pictures on here, but they like to hide in like warm areas, so like behind refrigerators, things like that, because there's like typically just warmth, and then they scurry off to go find food and come back. They're really weird because they actually are like very like hive-minded and family-minded in a weird way. It sounds weird to say that a cockroach is a family, right? But they'll like go out and get food and then come back to the harbor and just breed and proliferate. That's what it looks like right there. You can kind of see it. This is going to be the most common one. You don't really have to worry about the rest, but it's identified by the lieutenant bars that are right there. Two little streaks that go right down.
I wanted to hit on one thing before we keep going to the other slides. I want you to pay attention to the word most common.
Yes.
There's going to be a bunch of different words you're going to see in here for most prevalent, most destructive, right? That's what's going to mess you up on the test. So know that as we're going through these slides.
Yeah, one of the following slides is going to say that there's another one that's the most common, but it's a specific type of most common. This one overall on the ship, the most common one on the ship, German cockroach. What's again right there, you don't really got to know about this. That's called the Eutheca. Typically they have anywhere from 25 to 50 eggs in there. It's like sealed. It's really gnarly because if you guys ever seen the movie Alien, like the original one from 1979, they like crack open and they just come out. And they're like clear because they're born like clear, and then they actually get melanated as they continue to grow. And they molt. It's weird. Like snakes. They like come out of their shell. So if you ever find casings,
Like arachnids.
yeah, just like arachnids actually. They just pop out like that, and it's like really weird because they look like clear. If you ever catch one, that's the easiest time to kill them.
Scorpions do the same thing.
They continue to grow that way. That's a male, that's a female, that's the Eutheca on the back of it. So if you ever see it right there, I don't think we're going to be testing on Eutheca. I don't think I've ever seen it on there, but just know that that is an egg. So if you kill a cockroach with that, it's pretty great. Pesticides can be used, but the best thing is kinetic means or mechanical destruction, which means slamming it down. Adult female cockroaches produce a visible egg. Like I said, it was called Eutheca. That number is contested, but per the manual, it says 30 to 40 eggs. Carry the egg capsule for up to 3 weeks, and the eggs are until they're within 24 hours of hatching. So they'll literally just walk onto this, and you'll see them, and then they'll just detach. They'll either glue it under certain areas, so like sanitation of like tables and like galleys and sculleries, right? So like underneath, you want to make sure that everything is actually clean. You grab your cleaning rag, top, bottom, and you actually clean, because they'll actually glue them onto certain areas to protect their eggs, because they actually, in a weird way, they care for their young. The young cockroaches are called nymphs. Most of them are called nymphs, like most insects. Fully mature in 40 to 60 days. They can live up to 1 year, and they can do six egg capsules during her lifetime. I don't ever think I've seen that on the exam at all. But if you want to take a picture, please feel free to.
The only time they get into the stages is when they actually reference the, correct me if I'm wrong, is it the 6250? It's the actual, like, I think it's the malaria one where they talk about the different stages of a mosquito. That's the only time they were talking about those specific stages, where the Eutheca and all that.
Yeah, there is a specific one where they talk about it. I can't remember off the top of my head. But
It's a Tech Man. I think it's the 6250 Tech Man or something like that.
Yes, but that's a different chapter actually. They talk about the biology of mosquitoes and like when the best time to kill them is. I want to say it's chapter 1, and we didn't go over that yesterday because it's not in your bibs. Go study it, right? That's extra material you don't even know that people like me have to know, or IDCs as they should. German cockroaches require food, water, warmth, and harborages. Kind of like us, right? Harborages meaning your home, food, water, warmth. Most things require that in order for them to proliferate and get bigger and better and stronger. That's typically their size right there, where they like to hide. So at the very beginning when I said that they like to cramp up together, they can hide into anything about less than half an inch wide. So think about half an inch, maybe about that, really, really tiny. They are not like rats or rodents, which we'll get into a little bit later, where they can stick their head in and then dislodge their body and go through things. Rats are something else, man.
So that's a test question on the foraging one. They have the percentages on there. And then another tip as we're going through this, pay attention to the environments that these pests survive in or like to eat, or what they like to eat, right? Find that unique item to where you can associate it with it.
Yeah, cockroaches will basically forage for whatever's available. They'll like to hang out, like I said, in like galleys, ship's galleys, ship stores, the actual storage units, so like the stores, canned goods, wherever there's potential of there being any kind of like sugar, food that's cracked. That's why like do it like unwrap and stuff. You have to like really look at inspect your goods to make sure that there's no like leakage or anything spilled. And if somebody drops like a soda or something, clean it up. Common thing that happens at the hospital. We have cockroaches. Well, maybe stop drinking your sugared coffee and leaving it open overnight. That might help. A little bit more information right there. Cockroaches seen in light conditions. It may indicate that there's an extremely large population because their harborage is too packed. So they're leaving and trying to find more harborage. If you find them during the day, you have a massive infestation. Shipboard pest control specialist, which would be like me if I'm on the ship. We do the survey every 2 weeks in food service areas. I would write that one down. Surveying the cockroaches in every 2 weeks, and then weekly until they're no longer present. So surveillance is going to be different than the actual killing of them. That's actually it's going to be on the next slide. So if you guys are done, I'll do some heads.
For those that have not been on a ship, does that make sense to y'all? So the routine is every 2 weeks, and then if you find an infestation, it's every week for doing the inspections.
And that's really going to depend on whatever threshold it is that you have there. So if you find like one, I mean, you can just continue to keep going every 2 weeks. That means that the galley personnel are doing a really good job about like cleaning after themselves, right? But if you show up and then you see something like that right there, using a regular old sticky trap, that's what we actually use for surveillance, then you have a problem. And that's when that shifts over into surveillance every week. That one might be mine. Flushing agents, it's called 22-1 Lima. It's in a white can. For those of you that have been on the ship, you may have seen the PMTs actually going in there, kind of using it to flush out whatever's in there. It is technically a pesticide, but it is basically like a fumigant to just get them out of there. And at that point, you just kind of kill them. Like, actually stomp on them and kill them. Don't really have to get into the I've never seen the amount that you have to do that, actually. Like I mentioned before, that one right there, the roach traps, that's basically just for, to kind of like narrow down where they're coming from. You can use commercial baits, like the Max Force Combat, the little houses. They're like little black like discs with like entrances. They go in there, get the bait, and go back and die. But then, because they'll go get that, then take it back to their family and feed it back to them. They're like regurgitated over to like their other like nymphs and other cockroaches that are there, because they actually share. It's a really weird like thing that they're like prehistoric animals, right? Like I mentioned before, peer side acceptance inspections, and also when doing unrep. So if you're like on one who decides to be an IDC, and you go there, and you're the only like IDC like on a small boy, right, like a CG or DDG, then you're supposed to be there conducting an inspection of the stores. Because you went to the training, and that's your baby. So you should be there actually with a flashlight, looking through everything, kicking the pallets, making sure that everything's good to go. PMT should be doing that. If you're on a larger deck, like a LPD or LHD and stuff, or a carrier. Storage products pests. There's going to be another one in here that's going to be the most common. All right. There's over 100 species of insects, mostly beetles and moths. They can infest the food products brought aboard ship. They're pretty destructive, actually. Key feature of biology is their ability to conserve water. makes them well adapted for investing in dry stores. There are some of them that don't actually have to drink water. They can survive for up to a year without having any food or water. They'll just like basically go into like a weird hibernative state, and they'll just chill until they actually need to go out and get water. Bed bugs are like that actually. They don't require a blood meal for up to a meal. So if you go to a hotel room that hasn't had somebody to be there in a year, if you happen to be the lucky one, guess what? You got one of them by night. So like it says right there, there's going to be different types. We're going to focus more so on the medically important ones. That's going to have a lot of information that has been on the test a number of times, and you're going to have your non-medically important ones. They're more of like, they destroy things.
Now, the key word here, right, is SPP, stored product pest, right? That's how they're going to word on the test, is what is your most important or most common stored product pest, which is going to be different than your most common pest, which is what? The German cockroach.
Yeah. And the question that you're going to get asked on the exam is which one is your most destructive SSP, or stored product pest? Does anyone know what that is? The most destructive.
Rice weevil.
The rice weevil. It's literally about the size of a grain of rice. That should be on the format exam, top right. All right, beetles, they're really, really common. Domestic beetles, the hairs on the outside of the larva cause intestinal trauma, irritation, dermatitis, and actually we have found, like between scientists and like studies that have been done, that they can actually cause childhood asthma. Because if you see right there, that's the larva, right? That's just the larva. That's not what it actually looks like. Maybe about half an inch. The larva, for some reason, is a little bit larger than the actual beetle itself. But that's your actual common carpet beetle. Found in the Southwest, they're everywhere. The issue about this one that I would remember is the copper beetle, which is a domestic beetle. That's just a genus, right? The infestation of one living or dead larva of Trogoderma or other domestic species shall be justification for condemnation of the lot. Think of that. All right, so we all give immunizations, right? At some point or another in our career, every vial has a lot number. Different areas can have the same lot number, which means that if you find something on the USS Harry S. Truman that has the same number as something that's on the USS Boxer, you need to let them know, and that needs to be deep six. Scuttle, get rid. Overall. So big room, write that one down. And it's actually, it should be in, I should have written it in the, typed it in that little format I gave. That is very important. So copper beetle, 1 equals condemnation.
Know about the hairs too, because that's been on the test. Hairs is always going to be associated with your copper beetle or dermestid beetle.
Very good, or should I go back? I'll wait. Looks like everyone's about done. And if not, this is the same slide that was handed out that was emailed out to everybody, so you can just get it from there. And it's on what I gave you.
So domestic is a copper beetle, or
yes.
is they? Okay.
Domestic is overall the genus, and then Trogoderma is that specific one. Trogoderma is that specific beetle. There's a whole other types and stuff. These guys are actually really tiny. They're about the size of maybe 2 long-grain rice kernels side by side. If you've ever lived in the Southwest, they're like they can be in your carpet. Like they're global pests. But for ships specifically, just remember that 1 equals 1 and done. That's it. All right, another medically important SPP, stored product pest. Flower beetles and the confused flower beetle. All you really got to remember, I don't think you're going to be asked confused flower beetle, but you can just remember what they are. I would remember of these that they cause flower to turn gray, and it smells really bad. That's parts of it. Adult flower beetles secrete benzoquinones, which are, does anybody know what that is? Carcinogenic. They can actually give you cancer. We talked about tolerance levels a little while ago, right? So if we find 3 per pound of food, so when your PMT is actually out there, or your IDC, or if you're assigned to that, you're helping do these inspections, you sit through the flower, you have a 5-pound 3-pound container of that, and you find 3, gotta get rid of it.
This is the point I was talking about, that where it's not on here, and you're going to see 3, and you're going to miss it on your test. 3 is only associated with flower beetles. 7 is the general amount.
Yeah, for all of the other ones.
So 7 or more insects per pound is the general amount, which is usually what's the question that's on your test.
I think that one might be in here too, in one of the slides.
It's not, unfortunately.
Not on this one?
But that's why I had to go back in the manual and look, because I used to always think it was 3, because that's the only time I ever saw that. The 3 is only associated with the flower beetles.
Yeah, so what I'll do is I'll actually upload these for the next, hopefully none of you guys are here for the next EAP. But I will get that updated because I've taught the shipment pest management before, so I'll go back and forth with that material. No real difference here. You don't really have to know any of this, but like the grub state of it is actually twice the size of when it actually becomes a beetle. So it's actually about 1 inch long. And then it becomes a little beetle. Only difference between the two, they look exactly the same, right? Except one of them has their little sausage antenna, and one of them is crooked. It's confused. So some dude that got paid a lot of money, that probably got a PhD, just said, "Oh, look, that was confused because it doesn't have a straight antenna." That's it, literally. He's like, "Man, I went to school for this. All right, cool." This is another one that you would remember. This is not a medically important store pest product, but the sawtooth grain beetle is the most common SSP. So what is the most common overall in the ship? German cockroach. The most common overall? The most common SSP? This guy right here. You can't see it on this picture, but for these beetles, they're about the same size as the other ones. On the sides of their actual thorax right here, they have sawtooth. It looks like a little saw, like serrations. Like if you get a serrated knife, like literally it looks like that. That's how you can identify it. But you actually need a microscope or a minimum, maybe if your eyes are great, a magnifying glass. Pretty hard to find too.
So the thing that I was going to tell you right here, this one I'm talking about, is going to be on the test, because I've seen it. They're going to ask like what kind of foods you find them in, so you need to find that one that really stands out. So to me, candy, like, because they're going to list all of these things, right? Candy or tobacco products will be associating with the sawtooth grain, and then raw grains and grain products will be associated with the rice weevil. You're going to see that when we talk about vending machines and other shit too, to know exactly what pest it's talking about.
The most common SSP, sawtooth grain beetle. You will be asked, because I have seen it in the exam a number of times, it's going to be the most destructive is the rice weevil. They're kind of cute actually when you look at them. You have them like tiny beaks. They're again about the size of. I mean, if you look at bugs as much as I have, you get to like them a little bit, right? You got to be a certain kind of person that you come to get teeth. But there, if you take a look at that, that's actually a grain of rice. They actually eat it and they'll lay their egg inside there. Gross. So think about that. Think about how tiny they are and how much destruction they can actually do. Rice weevil, and think about why these are important, right? So what do you typically buy to go long term? Grains, flour. During hurricane, like you go to places that are what they call third world countries, they typically give out rice and flour, right? Because it's long term. But they could be easily destroyed by these little fellas right here.
So you have to stop eating rice.
I'm not going to tell you to stop eating rice because I'm going to have my arroz con pollo.
So we don't come in contact with one?
Say again?
So we should do? So we don't come in contact with someone?
It's up to you, but actually, at the Portsmouth commissary just last week, they ended up finding. They thought it was a rice weevil, but it actually ended up being a different type of beetle that was in there. So if you didn't know, it's not really related to anything, but at every commissary, there are active duty 68 Sierras, which are Army preventive medicine specialists. They go through the same school that we do, but they're like assigned to commissaries. And that's their permanent duty station until they PCS. They literally maintain and they see where the food comes, they verify that it's like maintained, and you'll see them walking. We've ever seen an Army guy walking around with like a soldier, walking around with like a clipboard looking at stuff. They're literally just doing their job. They're making sure that the rotation, the first in, first out rotation is going on, and they're like actually doing their job. At Norfolk, they lost power to their section that has like salads and stuff. That dude was there in like 24 hours, just like monitoring temps. I felt so bad for him, but I wasn't gonna help because I don't live over there. Not different branches there. They're cool, but I'm not gonna do that. Some more non-medically important SSPs, the Indian meal moth, vending machines, snack areas, which where you're going to basically find them. White worms, that's what they're going to look like when they're still in the larval stage. They're pretty small too. I want to say they're about 1/4 of an inch, more or less. If I would have had enough time, I would have actually brought some specimens so you guys could see them, but we didn't really have the time to. And I would have to borrow the specimens, and Commander Jans is very, very stingy. Good guy, but very, very stingy. Cigarette beetle, what do you think you're going to find that? They eat through, the thing I remember about the cigarette beetle is going to be capable of penetrating both polyethylene and paper packaging. So think about a package of cigarettes. They're covered in the polyethylene. They can eat through that, eat through the cardboard, and then eat the stuff on the inside.
So vending machines one has been on the test, so I would star that for.
Yes, the Indian meal moth has been in there, and that was 2 cycles ago for one of my mentees that I had before. That one was in the vending machine and snack areas aboard ship, Indian meal moth. So vending machines are peanuts, I guess. Your Eagle cash card. Indian meal moth, vending machines, cigarette beetle, can penetrate polyethylene. I think there were cigarette beetles actually that were on the rice. We get like so many reports of like random stuff, pesticides and all that nonsense. Cool. Drugstore beetle. This one can actually eat almost through anything. Can ingest poison like belladonna. That one has been on the advancement exam before. Drugstore beetle will get into your actual like medication stores, and they can eat strychnine as well. Strychnine, belladonna, they'll eat anything. They don't care. What's it called? Like the honey badger. Honey badger don't give a shit, right? They consume paper and wood, so there's a reason why I mentioned before. On ship, you typically don't want to have wooden pallets because that's a potential harborage. Field situations are a little bit different for obvious reasons. Book lice. You're going to find them in books, obviously. Preferred foods that mold and have fungus. So strawberries. You shouldn't have strawberries on a ship. Because if you look at the structure of a strawberry, all of those sections are seeds, right? So potential for contamination. So that's another thing that's just out there. Animal debris, paste glue. I would imagine that they actually eat the moisture from books. So like your RPs. If they're because I'm pretty sure RPs on ships just basically handle like libraries, right? From what I've been told. So they were looking in their stuff, and you find something in the back, typically in older books. So universities, that's a really big problem. I know at the academy, their PMT, they go back there and they go through all of their archives and stuff to make sure that there are no like book lice in there, because they can spread pretty quickly. I've never seen that one on the advancement exam though, but if you want to write it down, it's there. I didn't write it down on the sheet. All right, surveillance. Reporting infestations of SSPs. You're going to use a DD form 1222. So whenever you're doing your food stores, assume that you were, I didn't put that on the form, but if you're doing your food stores and you find something on there, you're supposed to submit that right there and report it up. You can't see it on the form, but it'll tell you what type it was, what you think that it was, confirmatory results, right? So you look through the microscope, and then what the action was. Typically get it signed by whoever the FSO is, food safety officer, or whoever's responsible for like the galley or the ship storage and stuff like that. Items with an infestation below the level specified in mill standard 904 Bravo can be placed in a freezer space for at least 3 days. Freezer temperature should be 0 degrees. Freezing the pests and food materials for a minimum of 2 weeks at 0 will kill all stages of the insects.
That one should be highlighted in red because it's been on the test before. That last line, minimum of 2 weeks at 0 degrees kills all stages of insects.
Yeah, those are your sizes right there, but that's just to determine what type of infestation you actually have. But that has been on there before, just like HM1 said. Freezing the food minimum of 2 weeks, and then after it's frozen, you take it out and you just put it through the sifter. So you have to make your pancakes. Or whatever they're making.
Now you guys never want to eat at a galley.
This guy.
No one wants to eat at the galley.
That's a true statement.
I'll tell you, Pioneer Pizza. No.
I'm dreading it when we get actually up and running.
Rodents. Obviously, we talked about it yesterday. What can rodents carry? Do you guys know? Remember?
Everything.
Like, they can carry a lot of things. Hunt fires, a lot of other things. They can, like I said right there, they can carry and transmit a lot of communicable diseases, murine typhus, leptospirosis, foodborne illnesses, salmonellosis, so they can walk through stuff and actually like spread it that way because they're like, you don't really know, touch it. The amount of times that people touch their face is a lot throughout the day. And then next thing you know, you're sick. Characteristics, they use their sense of touch when moving because they actually have really terrible vision. So their larger rats stick to the sides. Younger rats are just kind of like more chaotic and just kind of whatever. Or different types of rats, smaller ones. Really great sense of smell. They're not repelled by human odors like a lot of people. Like if there's any hunters in here, you get that weird spray that's like deer urine. You're like out there like hunting. I've done it twice and it's gross. They prefer fresh foods. Really, really great hearing. And climbers, jumpers, and swimmers. So they're like very, very adept to be on a ship. Two biggest rats that you have right there are going to be a Norway rat, which is known as the Rattus norvegicus. And I wrote that in there as well in your handout. Also known as the common rat, brown rat, water rat, wharf rat, or sewer rat. That is your bigger rat. The holes in the decks of the ships, think of it as a Norway Viking. They prefer meat and fish, right? Norway, Scandinavia, Vikings, they eat meat and fish because they're bigger. Their tails, I don't know if it's on the next one. Their tails are typically the same length as their body size. These are the ones that you're going to find everywhere. Philadelphia, actually here, you'll find them here. A lot of places actually. That one rat that was carrying a slice of pizza going up the stairs in New York, that's a Norway rat. Yeah, you find those everywhere.
But
Splinter, right? Yeah.
that should be highlighted in red too for where it's found, because I've seen that as a test question. Found mainly in holds and decks of ships.
Again, like I said before, like I said at the very beginning of this section right here, the larger it is, their vision is not great, so they're in holds because it's confined spaces, right? It's like harborages. Decks because they're trying to get in to find their place to like kind of nest, their little rat's nest. The roof rat, Rattus rattus, the ship rat or the black rat, original carrier of the bubonic plague during the Black Death of the 19th century. Their tail is a lot longer, as you can see on that right there. Kind of. We might have to turn off one of these lights. Their tail is actually longer than the length of their body. That actually helps them with their balance when they're going through lines. It is a lot smaller. They prefer seeds, cereals, vegetables, fruit. They can also eat leather goods, chocolate, and even weaker members of its kind. So if you ever had a hamster growing up, they'll eat their babies.
So the one that stands out that I've tried memorizing for this one is leather goods, because they'll list out all of them, and leather goods is the only one I know on here that is associated with the roof rat.
And since this is shipboard pest management, you're not supposed to wear what on a ship? Core frames, right? Except unless you're embarked, when you're with Marines. So they can go through your shoes. So you start seeing some knob marks in your shoes or your boots, you might want to say something. Or your gloves if you have you were issued with cold weather gloves. House mouse. Remember, I think it's practice domestic, something like that. It's really small. There's one that's called a fancy mouse. There's a whole bunch. Smallest rodents. The thing that I would remember about this one is that the colors, the coloration, they actually look like a young Norway rat. They're almost the same. It's just a smaller version. The young Norway rat, it's just like a thicker version of a fully grown house mouse. They're pretty common, but you're going to find them more like on.
You said it's the size of a house cat?
What's it called?
Looks like a small Norway rat.
Yeah, it looks like a tiny Norway rat. It's just a little bit thicker.
No, I thought you just said it.
I may have. I just took my medication right before I came in here, and my methylphenidate is kicking in. So.
Why was that?
So the Norway rat is the bigger one?
The bigger ones.
Okay.
So like I said, Vikings are typically bigger.
Okay.
Yeah, think of it that way.
I don't know if I missed you saying this. Is that the one where the tail is twice the length of the body?
No, the roof rat is.
Roof rat.
Twice the length of the body is roof rat. Okay, I've seen that as a test question. That's the reason why I asked.
Or longer than the full length of the body.
Okay, roof rat.
This depends. Maybe it's like a weird, like I don't know, mutation or something. But so once again, the Norway rat, a young Norway rat, looks like a fully grown house mouse. Yeah, it's just a little bit thicker. Their poop comes out a different size. That's not in here, but it is a surveillance tactic because their poop is about maybe like 10 centimeters. It's actually kind of big. So if you ever find that, that is the thing. Associated with humans, may cause serious damage to electrical wiring, food stores, especially sweets and grains. So you're going to find these in a lot of areas. But in comms rooms or like electrical panels, they can actually cause a lot of damage. They can get in there because they can, if you didn't know that, the rodents, their teeth never stop growing. They actually have to gnaw on things to actually break it down. They can chew through concrete. I've heard they can apparently gnaw through some metals, but they can actually chew through concrete, wood, anything like that. So they can get in and just like eat because they never stop growing. It's pretty crazy. Surveillance tactics, so runways and rub marks, like I mentioned a little while ago. So these guys right here, right? So these side panelings right there. If we were to see like a lot of oily streaking or a specific like oily smell, you gotta get pretty close to that. That means that there have been rats like transiting to and from. So next time you go to another building, maybe an armory or something, just like take a look at the section there, and then you'll find out right there. If you're ever feeling ever go to like downtown Norfolk or something down in Ghent and you're like looking at their areas and you see like restaurants and they have like rub marks, you might want to avoid those. Like for real. Tracks, you can actually use like talcum powder, put it down on the deck, and you'll actually see a little pause like go through certain areas. Droppings, a really easy way to find out is you're going to find droppings. They kind of look like black wild rice. I guess you could put it that way. The size of it is going to tell you, rice again, right? The size is going to tell you what type of insect you're what type of rodent you're dealing with. So if it's smaller, it's probably going to be the roof rat. If it's larger, and I believe their poop comes out pointed, it's not in here. No, it's not in here. There's a different shape to their actual poop, so you can find out what's there. And their urine, I would actually write this one down because rodents, they can't control their urine output. So they just pee everywhere, right? One of the things that we use is hold a black light at a certain angle to see if it fluoresces or not. I would remember those colors.
Yes.
Fresh urine is going to fluoresce a lime green color. Fresh urine, lime green. Old urine is going to be bluish white. So more like, it's going to look almost like the same color of the UV light, that purplish.
Those have been asked on the test, especially old urine color.
This is just typing writing, so hold on. Prevention, elimination of food, shelter, by proper handling of food and proper disposal of garbage and rubbish, keeping your trash cans closed, making sure that everything is wiped off after, not leaving your sugary coffee frappuccinos on top of your table and like letting it spill and not actually cleaning it off. That's gonna like attract them. So just go and they'll lick it up, right? Rat guards, I actually put that on your, it might be on this, it's not, but I put the actual distances on how far away it's supposed to be on the pier, their actual size and their angles. So if you, and I know this because I've seen that at NLB, they have to be coned. They can't be flat. Because some of the ships that are out there have them flat. So they have to be coned. I believe it's 36 degree angle.
Yes, so on here you put lines 2 feet on the pier and more than 2 feet from the ship, but on there it's 6 feet on the pier and 6.
Yeah, I didn't make this one. What I got from that one was strictly straight off both chapter 8 and the other one.
Okay, so this is the right one. So it's not 6, it's 2.
Yes, at a minimum is what you want to do. That's why it says more than.
Okay.
Because they can jump really far. Have you ever seen a jump? Like, I mean, videos are everywhere on YouTube and all that stuff. Like, they can jump pretty far. So I would make sure. I might be wrong on that, but you might want to look it up. Because at a minimum, more than 2 feet from the ship.
Okay.
At a minimum. And you can use multiple.
That's probably like max then.
Yeah.
6 feet is probably like the max.
Yeah, you basically want it far away.
Okay.
Like from the pier, because they can jump, and if it's an improperly placed one, they can jump on the top and then just get right over. The same thing when it comes to like there's one that was a ship Vincent, I think. There's a picture of it. They made them destroy all of them. They got custom-made rat guards. They had like a cat face on it, but it was flat. So the rats would just go jump on top like American Ninja Warrior, jump across. Keep going.
Yeah, so I want to give a visual for y'all, right? Because I think this, to see this and remember it is visually seeing it, right? So you're going to have a line here, right? Now, it says 6 feet from the pier, right? Because we don't want that to be able to jump from the pier onto the line. So that's where that 6 feet comes from. At greater than 2 feet from the ship is meaning that we want at a minimum 2 feet distance from the ship to the guard, because that's we don't want the rat jumping from the guard to the ship. So we don't want it closer than that 2 feet to the ship, if that makes sense, right? The other part is having the cone of the ship pointed towards the ship itself, because if you know a cone, if it's circled like this, it's it's harder for a rat to try to climb over that than you having the cone this way and it climbing just straight up and over.
Yeah, they can climb to like a lot of things. Like I have squirrels, which are just fancy rats, in my backyard, and they can climb on the vinyl siding. It's insane.
Does the visual make sense for y'all? I just think trying to remember this is the best way to remember it, is just picturing in your head what that looks like, and the distances make more sense to y'all.
The weird thing about this one that's in the manual is line number 3, right? That says that they're no longer required by rat guards except where birth in ports where plague is endemic. So like I mentioned yesterday, you can find plague in the place. So the standard across the board is just, even here in the States, you're supposed to use rat guards. The NEPU gets after a lot of people whenever they go on to do their sanitation inspections, because they don't use the right things, they're not at the right distances, they're all kinds of messed up. Bed bugs. They don't vector any diseases to humans yet, but they are getting pretty bad in a lot of places. Oval shaped and flat when not inboard when they're not actually eating. They hide during the day in the mattresses, bed springs, in small cracks and crevices. There is a type of spraying that's called crack and crevice spraying. It might be on the exam. So if you do bed bug treatment on a rack, crack and crevice, for the most part, is what you want to do, because you don't want it to be everywhere, because people sleep on it, right? Hide during the day. They usually feed at night on the host, and their actual time that they like to feed on is anywhere from 4:30 to 6 in the morning. So you can literally rack out. But for whatever reason, studies have shown that they like to feed around 4:30 to 6 in the morning. Typically when people are getting up for PT and stuff, right? So I don't know why. They're still trying to figure it out. The entomologists that I was speaking to about that, they don't even know why. They just like to feed at that time. So if you think about that on a sub, like how do you really regulate time? You know what I'm saying? You're like sleeping all the time. They may lay their eggs in privacy curtains, so make sure those are clean and inspected as well. This is the biggest thing about it too. Infestations are not really associated with the sanitary conditions. These guys are actually convenience travelers. So if you go to, it's like an opportunistic insect. So if you go to somewhere, France I think, France had a huge problem at their airport. So like people would go, they'd hang out at the airport, wait in their lounges. These little guys would latch onto their clothing and follow them wherever they were going. So like if you have 1 or 2 that are on you, you don't know that it's on you, it's just going to travel with you. It's a big problem that we have here specifically in the barracks, because what happens in the barracks, when I lived in the barracks a long time ago, you go from room to room hanging out with your buddies, right? So if your buddy ends up getting something because he was out partying in town in Jacksonville, North Carolina, they come back to Sunset Motel, and they come back over here and they put it in their room, and then your buddy comes over here to play video games with you, who also has these guys on him. Just put them in another room. It's a big problem at Norfolk Naval Shipyard actually. Like they just move them from room to room. That's not how you're supposed to do it.
Hence why bed bugs are more prevalent in hotels, because it's people from all over these different types of areas coming in there.
So if you don't practice this now, I would, if you have to go to a hotel, check in, put your luggage inside of the tub or the shower, and look through the bed.
You're gonna make these guys not want to stay anywhere now.
Yeah, before I did a trip recently. Before I let my wife and daughter in, I walked in, put everything inside of the little shower, and I just like went through the headboard. You find them a lot on the headboard. You find them in the cracks and crevices, and there's like a lot of like, once they're full, they like poop their blood, and there's casings and stuff, so you'll find like little spots and stuff. They have like what are they called, the mattress covers. They can still get in there.
I would look underneath your mattress every time you go to a hotel anyways.
Yep.
Some of them are shady and they just flip the mattress.
Yeah, they're to save money, they'll do that. And the other thing too, it's not in here, I'm trying to get one for years, but if you're ever at a hotel and somebody walks in with a beagle and says, oh, we're just doing an inspection. Beagles, they have beagles that are trained to actually detect bedbugs. So if somebody ever, like, hey, we're just doing an inspection real quick, that means that there's bedbugs somewhere in that hotel. We've been trying to get a beagle, like a military beagle, but they won't do that. Treating is going to be crack and crevice treatment specifically, the seams, folds, buttons of the mattresses. I don't think the ship ones have that anymore. I think the Comfort does. They have like these weird mattresses, but it's just going to be spot treatment and crack and crevice treatment. Only PMTs can apply. You never soak the mattress with spray. You have to let it dry thoroughly. Steam cleaning is effective. Overall, heat is what they don't like. They don't like extreme heat. So like if you're in a barracks room, they have these superheating, like basically just space heaters, and they will shift from one side to another, and you can see them, and at that point you just chemically or mechanically destroy them. We had to do that to one of the barracks at Norfolk Naval Shipyard, actually.
So the two things about those that are going to be on the test that I've seen for bed bugs is where they are, so they hide during the day in mattresses and bed springs, and then treating only the seams, folds, and buttons. Those will be the two questions I've seen about bed bugs on the test.
Fruit flies and drain flies, or Diptera, actual flies. Fruit flies can be brought aboard infested fruit, specifically strawberries, but any kind of fruit that's been damaged, they can actually just get in there, they'll eat it, lay their eggs, and go that way. They're attracted to yeast products, basically anything that can ferment. So like fruits that are wet, fruits can ferment, right? They make wine that way. They can actually like breed in that way. Biggest thing, like at the very, very beginning, right from the start, sanitation, locating and removing the source of infestation, disposal of rotting or fruit vegetables, that can just be enough to actually get rid of them. So making sure that when your CSs are actually trained in shipboard pest management, your PMTs, your Quad Zeros, whoever, and they're actually looking at those, when they're looking at the fruits while they're doing their routine inspections to make sure that they're actually getting rid of them. Exclusion of that stuff is going to be the biggest thing. They're just looking for food. Drain flies, also known as the moth fly.
Drain flies are gross.
Yeah, I don't like those things. There's a building we just went to, and in the shower, gross. The Marine barracks at Chesapeake, like down by Northwest Annex, disgusting.
Make sure you guys are running your garbage disposals if you live in housing. This is where a lot of drain flies like to come out, especially in the East Coast where it's hot and humid. A lot of times if you're not cleaning that garbage disposal, they'll just chill around your drain right there.
I wish I had a good visual example of what they look like. But for drain flies, they're pretty small. Associated pests in heads and galleys, like I mentioned, we found them in the heads and the showers. Breed in semi-aquatic habitats containing organic debris, so like skin, or like if you think of a drain like at your kitchen, right? So you have your drain, the hole itself, you have a garbage disposal, that's the whole other section. But your drain actually is like surface part, and then it encapsulates in the bottom. So when you're cleaning, and if you're not cleaning underneath with some kind of foaming agent, they're just eating them. So foaming agents are better for like drains and stuff, which a lot of those are restricted, unfortunately. So your good old vinegar and baking soda will work because it will just foam up and actually clean that portion off. Found in the decks and bulkheads in your drain. So if you ever go into a shower and you find like a little fuzzy, tiny, like what you think is a moth, it's probably really gross down there. And they're not big flyers. They do hop a little bit. They don't really go far. They kind of stay where their actual breeding sites and harboring sites are because they're just trying to stay there. It's like a convenience thing.
They're very similar to gnats, which is really annoying.
They're really small. They're really, really small. Quarantine issues. That was the problem before. We used to do this called DRAT system, but now we just use SSCC, the Shipboard Sanitation Control Exclusion or Certificate. All the ships have to actually be screened through that. Medical service quarantine regulations, I would remember that one right there. 6200, and like I mentioned before, 6200 series is typically preventive medicine, deployability, and readiness. If you don't know your SSCCs, or SSICs. I have seen this one right here, hiding concern for this ever-increasing threat to food production because that costs a lot of money. The loss of food costs a lot of money. I just watched a recent article on how foodborne illness can actually cause a lot of not only financial, but like time, emotional, life. It's a very, very costly burden. I would remember that executive order though, signed by President Clinton, basically to quarantine and remove any invasive species in the country. Do you guys know fire ants?
Yeah.
Fire ants. Those were imported, because they're actually South American fire ants. Those were imported through Florida. Go Florida, right? And they actually love this place. So all of the southeast, all of the southwest, they are everywhere. There is no getting rid of them. So they were imported because of not following proper quarantine issues. I haven't seen anything on the exam about the U.S. Public Health Service, but they run the same system. We have a couple of them that work here. It's really weird. They have like, they're only officers and they have like the same rank as officers, but they're not officers. So I never know whether it's good or not. I don't really know. Quarantine issues, U.S. vessels entering U.S. ports, they're not really regulated. Unless there's foreign vessels that are coming in, then we have to inspect them. So when you're entering another port, OCONUS, you have to use a Maritime Declaration of Health or Controlled Free Pratique. Free pratique meaning that you're going on and off your ship, like, because you're actually clean. I don't think I've seen that one on the exam either, actually. I would write this form down. So records and reports. Any personnel who apply pesticides during military operations ashore or afloat will record and report pesticide application using DD form 1532 Tact 1.
Don't get this confused.
With a DD 1222.
Which is your infestation log, right? Pest management maintenance record is your 1532 Tac 1. Your infestation one is your 1222. I guarantee you those are the two that are going to mix you up on the test.
The other thing that's not actually highlighted in red and it should be is that your lead is supposed to be sent to NMCF HPC every month. So that form gets sent to the Public Health Center every month. And it's still listed that way because some of the instructions haven't been updated to the new name. So if you see NMCF HPC, your name Marine Corps Force Child Protection Command, or name Marine Corps Public Health Command, they're probably going to be used interchangeably. I don't think they're going to screw with people and give them the new name. That form sent in monthly. Pesticides, not much really you have to know about that, but what you need to know is that when you apply pesticides, you have to have the proper PPE, specifically a respirator. Now, certified respirator, I have never seen that in the advancement exam, but it's basically you're either full face, half face, and you're supposed to wear gloves, and really about it. I don't read too much on this one.
That OpNav instruction is actually in the Fox. Is it Foxtrot? I think it's in the Foxtrot version right now, not Delta.
Yeah, it's right there.
In Avalanche?
Yeah, it's on one-on-one.
The 51.19, I believe, is the Foxtrot version right now.
It's listed as twice on this one.
And the other one is in the Golf version. So the 2.3 is in the Golf version, and the 19 is in the Foxtrot.
And this is actually the last slide. That's basically your basic old school type of pesticide applicator thing. That's your nozzles. If you've ever been expeditionary deployed, you see people out there spraying uniforms. That's what you use for it. That's your typical hand can. So even if you're like in base housing or an apartment complex and they come in to do pesticide spraying, they have a little 2 to 5 gallon sprayer and you spray. Those suck because you have to actually maintain 50 plus PSI to actually apply properly. I have never used a one on the top before because everything now comes conveniently placed in cans. So you just spray it. That's really about it. Questions?
And that covers both Chapter 8 and the